Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about a few things. Well, we have two topics I want to talk about. We may get into both of them in this episode. We may have to do another episode, but we're gonna. I have several topics I want to talk about, and both of them is basically about the same, but they have similarities, but they don't. Let's get into it. If you remember or recall, a couple of weeks ago, I did an episode. This is a government episode, of course, everybody. But first off, before I start, rest in peace, Danielle Spencer. For y'all that don't know who Danielle Spencer is, she was an actor. She was best known for playing um, Dee Thomas on the 1970s sitcoms What's Happening, and its spin-off show What's Happening Now in the 1980s. After leaving What's Happening, she went to school. She became a veterinarian, a pet veterinarian, and she became um, Doctor, you know, Spencer. But rest in peace to her. She died about a day or two ago. So rest in peace to her. And she's now up there with Rerun and Shirley. But let's get back into what we was talking about. If you remember earlier in a few weeks ago, we was talking about how Trump was cutting services and cutting funding to a lot of services. He was going to try to cut Medicaid, and he was going to try to cut food stamps and a lot of these services that people need and stuff. Now, the government, in this episode, the government wants to cut, and I know y'all have heard about this. I don't know when it's going to start. The government wants to cut snacks and soda from the food stamp roster. You know how when they say you can't buy hot food with food stamps and you can't buy certain items with food stamps? Now the government wants to ban snacks and sodas from the food stamp roster. Now I'm going to give you my opinion, but from both sides, I've gotten positive and negative views about this because I've seen it throughout social media. I've had friends and coworkers and stuff that I've had, people have their positive and negative vibes on it. I've had people that say this is bad, now because of what I think, and then I've had people that, and I'm going to tell you what I think, and I've had people that say, oh, this might be good, or I understand why they're doing it, and stuff like that. But, I want to know what y'all think about it. But, okay, let's get into it. With me, I honestly think that this is a bad idea because now, excuse me, y'all, my sinuses because of the weather and everything, but excuse me, y'all. But it is the fact that, you're taking food out of people's mouths. Okay, let me give you a scenario. Um, let's say your kids get out of school at 3 o'clock. You come home. You don't get off to work till 5. That regular work in 9 to 5. So when your kids come home, they're gonna want something to snack on. So in between 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, or maybe 6 or 7, depending on what time you get home. Because if you get up at 5, you got to fight through traffic. Then you got to get home, take the food out, start cooking it, whatever. And your kids gonna want something to snack on. So they go. You know how a lot of, and I've just did it recently. They like to buy their variety pack of chips. The little box or the little bag that has a different type of varieties of chips, whether it's Lay's, barbecue, Cheetos and stuff like that. And they go in there, they grab them a pack of chips, they go grab them a juice, and then they go sit. They do their homework. They go watch cartoons or TV or whatever. That's how we used to do it back in the day. Come home, we go grab a bag of chips from the bag. go grab us a juice. We go sit. We go watch TV for a little bit. We probably go do our homework or whatever, and things like that. And now you're saying that no, they can't buy chips. They can't get the Lay's chips. They can't get the Pringles chips. They can't get none of that. They're saying, hey, no. What I believe they're trying to do is trying to. I believe they're doing several things. One of the things I think they're doing is they're trying to take away unhealthy options, and they're trying to do away with that. But that's not really, because I've seen a lot of people that say, well, yeah, this is good because they're trying to make food stamps more healthier. But if you're gonna do this, you need to make healthier foods more cost efficient and more cheaper. And that's the positive side of what people were saying. Yeah, some people was liking this because they felt like this was turning into the healthier side, which it can be, but at the same time, you do realize healthier food costs more than regular food. A lot of these kids, they go to these corner stores and convenience stores and they buy chips and juice and stuff like that because that's stuff that they drink while in between meals, because it's like the Snickers commercial. Snickers keep you satisfied until a decent meal. But at the same time, another reason why I think they're taking it away is because they're trying to cut money. Like, the less people spend on food stamps, it's the less food stamps the government have to spend out on food stamps. Because chips and soda is like $1 billion business in its own. Because there isn't a person that doesn't go to a corner store or a convenience store that's on the corner, that's down the street from your house, and you go get a bag of Lay's barbecue chips and a can of soda, or the Ritz soda that they sell in these convenience stores, and you go and then you come home and then you eat your bag of chips and soda and stuff like that, or you get a couple of items from the thing. And I'm like, that's not just our childhood, that's everyday life. But you're banging it because, like I said, I think there's two reasons. One, because they're trying to make it food stamps more healthier, which I believe is a bunch of doo-doo crap. And other thing is that they're trying to cut costs and trying to dishing out money for frivolous stuff like, oh, we'll pay for steaks and cheese and milk and bread and butter, but we won't pay for Coca-Cola and Lay's potato chips. Now, if you're trying to make food healthier, why are you still paying for all of these fattening foods? You're still paying for steaks and oxtails and all of these fattening foods, ground beef, and not the lean ground beef, not the turkey ground beef, the actual ground beef. You're still gonna be having all of these fattening foods and non-healthy foods, to where people are still gonna be buying fattening things. So for you just to get rid of snacks like chips and soda, it's not really helping. Yeah, of course, with soda now, the only option you have is juice and water and tea, or energy drinks, So I get in the process of why you're doing that, but still, that doesn't really prove nothing. Because now, when you go to the store, let's say you go to the grocery store, you have a $200 grocery bill. Let's say you have $250 a month in food stamps, and you go and buy $200 worth of food. When you get to the checkout counter, you got everything. You got meat, cheeses, bread, butter, cakes, pies, cereal, milk. You got a whole bunch of lists in your groceries. You got potato chips, sodas, you got all of this stuff. Then when it comes down to it, when you swipe that card, let's say your chip and soda bill is like $25-$30, because you're buying like different types of soda. Because like for me, I mostly like Sprite. and lemon lime sodas. My mom, she mostly, Coca Pepsi. Even though I like Coca Pepsi, but most of the time when I go to the store, I buy lemon lime sodas. Like just like when I go to the restaurant, I mostly drink lemon lime sodas or orange sodas and stuff like that. So you want to buy different variety of sodas. You buy Coke, you buy Pepsi, you buy Crush, you buy 7 Up or Sprite or stuff like that. So and then you go get the variety bag so your kids can have different types of variety of chips. One day they can be snacking on the Lay's regular, the next day they can snack on the Lay's barbecue. Then you got the Cheetos you can snack on one day. Then you got the Fritos, which is one of my mom's favorites. You got these different varieties of chips you can snack on. So when let's say it goes up to $30, and you got a $200 bill, you swipe that card, now you owe an additional $30 out of the $160 or $70 that you just paid off of on food. I'm like, so food stamps did pay for all my food? What the heck going on? So you're taking away $30, $40. You're taking away a couple. And now people got to pay out of pocket just to feed their kids for after school snacks. I don't agree with this. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but there has been social media posts that they is going to do this. And do y'all agree with this? Because I do not agree with this, because I honestly feel you're taking the livelihood out of young kids. I understand some of the reasons why you're probably doing it, but they haven't really gave no type of reason why they're doing it. But a lot of people think that they're doing it because they're trying to make food stamps food more healthier. But that's not really healthy when you got pork chops and fried pork chops, fried chicken, oxtails, and all of these other fattening foods that can still be. I mean, yeah, you could do smothered pork chops, you could do baked chicken and stuff like that, but a lot of these foods are still can be fattening. You didn't say you're eliminating, cakes and pies. You didn't say you're not eliminating all of these starchy foods like rice and all of this stuff. You're not eliminating healthier stuff. Yeah, fish is healthy. Chicken can be healthy the way if you the way you cook it. If you don't fry it, if you just bake it or something like that. A lot of these foods, yeah, they can be healthy foods, but you're not saying, oh, we're trying to make the food more healthier. It's basically you're like the Grinch saying, I am going to get all the snacks from the kids, and no kids are going to have no more snacks in America. Yeah. And I get the soda situation because soda is highly addictive. When I was young, and I don't know if I ever told you this, I broke out in ashes. And ashes is a type of medical condition where when you drink too much soda, it starts showing on your face. And a few years back, it started doing it with my mom, and I had to tell my mom, hey, you got to slow down on this soda, because my mom, she'll drink a 2-liter soda in less than 2 days. And I used to have to tell my mama, hey, you got to slow down on this drinking, because she started having ashes to come out, and I had to start drinking juice. And I had to tell my mama, hey, you need to drink at least one soda a week, or maybe 1 or 2 cups of soda a week. If you go to a restaurant and you get something to eat, yeah, you can get a soda, but buying this soda and you drinking 2 and 3 cups, no, that's stop. You gotta drink more water. You gotta drink more. So I kind of get that in the perspective, because you're trying to make drinks more healthier, where you're drinking juice or tea or water and stuff like that. So I kind of get that. But the fact that these chips, you got healthy chips, you got nutrition healthy chips, baked chips, they're kind of more healthier and things like that, and kettle chips and stuff like that. You got healthier chip options. So, but the thing about it is, even though a lot of these people don't go for healthy chip options, but you have the fact that you're taking away the livelihood of families. Mothers and daddies are saying, oh, kids, when y'all get home, just grab you some chips and a juice or a soda, and until we get home, we're gonna come. When I get home, I'll cook dinner, or I'm gonna bring something home from work. On my way home from work, I'm gonna bring some food or whatever. So just grab a chip and a juice till I get home. That's typical. But now, kids ain't gonna be able to grab a juice or a chip. They can grab a juice, but they're not gonna be able to grab a bag of chips. I'm like, because daddy and mommy gonna be like, I'm not paying a whole $20 just for a whole case of, I mean, I know they're like $6, $7 for the whole, case of varieties of chips and stuff like that. But still, you don't want to have to come out of pocket to pay that, because by you doing that, that's basically saying, oh my God, I got to spend my own money to pay for food. Yeah, you buy food in restaurants and stuff like that, but food stamps at home, you don't want to take away extra money, and for me, I'm like, yeah, I can't get down with this government. I can't get down with the fact that y'all taking away things that kids grew up on. I grew up on it. I mean, I back then I know, food stamps had the paper food stamps and stuff, and I can't really say if my family was on food stamps, but at the same time, it's like you're taking away childhood memories. The mama give the child a food stamp card. Go to the corner store and get a pack of bread. Go to the corner store and get a soda so we can have something to drink for dinner. Go to the corner store, you want to get some snacks. Go get you some snacks before, because I won't be cooking till later. It's Saturday, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Or I'm not cooking till 3 o'clock. If you want something to snack on, go to the store and get you some snacks. They got a food stamp, the pin number, go. And now you're going to go. And then there was a post that somebody was saying, a lot of these convenience stores allegedly is going to be charging people with food as the groceries. They're not, because a lot of these food stamps, they just ring up the price, and then you can just swipe, and then that's it. And they're not, and they don't have that, and they may not have the right to it. And I'm like, yeah, there are some places like that, but there's a convenience store, a corner store, like a neighborhood corner store that's by my house. They actually scan every item, and this is the only corner convenience store that I've seen that actually scans items. When you go to them corner stores in the urban areas, or you go to them little corner stores, they only say, okay, the chips, that's 50 cents, and then they just put in 50 cents. Oh, the soda, that's 75 cents. They put in the 75 cents. This so actually rings it up, and it actually shows you the price on this. It looks like an actual supermarket, like an actual grocery store, but it's just like a little convenience corner store that people go to. That it's on the corner by your house, and you just want a quick snack. You go to the corner store, or whatever. So yeah, and then I had a coworker of mine was saying they're doing that so they can stop people from selling their food stamps, and I'm like, I don't think that's because there are people that go to these convenience stores, and they have these convenience stores, and I've seen them. They had them down here in South Florida, but I know they're all over the country. Well, a lot of people, let's say they get 150 worth of food stamps. They go and they trade their food. They go to these little corner stores. They have a person that they can trade their food stamps in for money, and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't think that's the reason why they're stopping people from buying chips and soda with food stamps, because I don't believe that's the case, because they're trying to stop people from selling their food stamps. If you're trying to stop people from selling their food stamps, what you would do is that you'll crack down on these stores, and if they catch any of the stores doing it, because they've had several stores that was doing it, and some of these stores had got shut down, and then they reopened up and stuff like that, because that is a serious crime. You can't sell, people can't sell their food stamps, because a lot of these people, they get food stamps and they like, oh, I need crack, or I need drugs, or I need this, or I need money. So they go into these corners like, hey, I heard you sell food stamps. I don't know how the process go. I've never did it. When I had food stamps, I've never did it, but I know there are people that actually do it. They would say, it was an episode on Everybody Hates Chris, the TV show about Chris Rock's family. There was an episode that was contained in that. It was about the paper food stamps, and it was like, that she didn't, like Rochelle, which is Tashina Arnold's character, when they had ended up getting food stamps, and she was too ashamed to use food stamps, so she ended up was paying, because with the food stamps, she was like, oh, I'm gonna get the generic, the name brand foods, the name brand this, the name brand that. And in the episode, she saw one of her friends and she didn't want to pay with food stamps because she didn't want them to think that she was poor. So she ended up paying with cash, and then she tried to sell the food stamps at one point, and they did an episode about it, but that was paper food stamps. Now you have these electronic cards that you can swipe and all that. But at the same time, I was like, And then when my coworker was saying that, and I was like, I don't think this is because they trying to stop people from selling their food stamps. I think what it is that there's two reasons. Number one, they're trying to cut on money costs because they have to, instead of spending a whole lot of, because you every day the government probably is dishing out $5,000 or maybe more to these corner stores for food stamps. I mean, for food purchases, whether it's chips, sodas, whatever. Because when I go to a corner store sometimes, especially the one I was telling you about, that is not too far from where I live, they have almost every candy. They have every Snicker bar that is known to man. The regular Snicker bar, the Snicker bar with almonds, the Snicker bar with pecans, the peanut butter Snicker bar. They have every Snicker bar, and they have every Reese's. They have the Reese's Take 5, the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, the Nut Raisins Reese's. They have every type of, and then they have a whole variety of chips. They got my favorite Tom's. If you ever know the Tom's salt and vinegar chips, that's one of my favorite. They used to have the salt and vinegar waves too of Tom's, but they don't have that anymore. They have like a whole bunch of, and they have every type of snack you can get. And when I go there, I always accumulate almost up to $20 worth of snacks, because I be getting cookies, chips, and all that stuff. And they have everything, and that's the same one that I told you that likes to scan each item, except for like the hot sauces and stuff. You can't scan it, and I'm like, yeah, each kid accumulates from $10 to $20 worth of snacks every day from a corner store. And when you accumulate that across America, you're doing almost 5,000 plus more in convenience store candy and snacks. So the government has to dish that out almost every day or every other day in total. Not saying they give it every day, but in total, throughout the month, a convenience store probably makes at least $10,000 in snacks, because a lot of people go in and use, because there are some convenience stores that don't use food stamps. Like there's two that's within walking distance of where I live at. They don't take food stamps, and I think one of the reasons why, because maybe because they cracking down on stores with food, because there's a lot of corner stores now that don't take food stamps. And then I guess because they're cracking down on a lot of these stores, why they don't want these stores exchanging food for money. Or I've gotten with a lot of these corner stores, it costs money to use these services, like with credit cards and debit cards. They tell you, a lot of these corner stores, that they charge you an additional $1 or so to use that, because they gotta, every time somebody swipe a card and pay for an item out of a store, they have to pay like 50 cents or $1 for each charge. And that's why a lot of these stores be saying you have to have a minimum of $5 purchase using a debit or credit. Because it was a store that I went to, and it was a gas station, and they said you have to have a $3 minimum. And my things was less than $3. It was like $2 and change. But I ended up paying for it with a card. But they say on the thing you have to have a minimum of $3 for a $3 purchase. So I'm like, okay, I get why certain of these places don't do it, because I don't know if they pay for the food stamp service, but I know a lot of these places, they don't take food stamps because of the fact that how the Food and Drug Administration and the government is trying to crack down on a lot of these places not taking food stamps and all that. And then not only that, they may have to pay for this service, to use this service. Every month you'll probably have to pay a service fee or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, and because, food stamps you can't tax, because a lot of these stores, they tax you, especially like the one I told you that they scan each item, they tax. But when you pay for food stamps, they got to correct it and take out the tax, because, food stamps is not taxable, because you can't tax food stamps, and stuff like that. But I want to know what y'all think about this, because this is something that I feel that a lot of people, I see good comments, I see bad comments. To me, I'm against it because of the fact you're taking away the livelihood of a lot of these kids, because now these kids don't have snacks to eat in the afternoon. I'm not saying now you're gonna convert them to other things, and you do have healthier snacks. You have these, bags of potato sticks or these vegetable sticks and stuff like. Cause I see them in the vending machines, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I see these little, healthy snacks. They be in bags, but like these vegetable sticks and all that. They sell them in the vending machines, and I'm like, And you sell juice and stuff like that and all that, and you sell healthier things. But it's the fact that now when the kids come home, the parents gonna be like, well, we can't buy regular chips anymore with food stamps. So now we only can eat what we can buy from food stamps, and the kids gonna be like, I can't buy my favorite chips. Yeah, mommy can buy it, but mommy don't want to pay an extra $2-3 to buy it, because that's money that can be going towards a bill or something like that. Food stamps was actually helping me save money on buying groceries, so I can have more money to spend on other stuff. I gotta buy your school clothes. I gotta buy, pay the mortgage. I gotta pay, the electricity bill. I gotta pay car note insurance and all of this other stuff I gotta do, and stuff like that. I gotta pay for your, football gear or practice or whatever you got going on. I gotta pay for this, I gotta pay this fee, I gotta pay that, and it's like you don't want to put an additional extra money out for, pay for this. So I want to know what y'all think about this. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think this is a bad idea? Do you think that the government is right for doing this? Do you think the government is not right for doing this? Because honestly, I think the government is not right for doing this. I don't think that this is a good idea, because at the same time, you're taking away childhood memories. And even though we're not children anymore, but we got kids out here that used to have an everyday ritual. They come home, as soon as they come home, they start doing their homework. While they doing their homework, they grab a bag of Lay's barbecue chips. They grab them a can of soda, one of the little Ritz soda or one of the little Czech sodas from Winn-Dixie, because the Czech sodas from Winn-Dixie, them the sodas that cheap. You go buy, you get your Czech soda, you go sit down while you're doing your homework, you're snacking on some chips, you're drinking you a little soda and stuff like that, and stuff like that. And then you're like, okay, I'm doing my homework and I'm eating my chip. Nah, you can't do that no more. You gotta go a healthier option. And I'm like, if I gotta sit here and do my homework that Miss Johnson gave me in math class, I want to snack on one of my favorite chips and drink my favorite strawberry soda, and while I'm doing my homework, I don't want to come home and have to try to figure out now what I'm gonna have to eat with my homework. So it's things like that, that you have to look at, and I know a lot of you probably will say, oh, because it's healthier options and stuff like that. Yeah, but you gotta help make healthier foods affordable. You realize Whole Foods is not cheap. And Whole Foods is a healthy, organic supermarket that is owned by Amazon. And you got to realize, when you go in there, you're not buying cheap food. Why you think a lot of these Whole Foods are in the suburban areas? They're not in Liberty City. They're not in Overtown, which is the urban black areas. They're not over there by the Poke and Beans and stuff like that. So, they're not in Opelika. They're in, Brickell and North Miami and South Beach, where these places, where a lot of these high-end, people that live in high-end areas, they're not in the poor areas. But and then when you go in there, I know the price. I've never been in a Whole Foods, but I know the prices are expensive. And yeah, excuse me, a lot of these places, a lot of the, healthier foods are more organic foods. They are more pricier than regular food. You may have organic chips, and these chips might cost you $5, but regular chips may cost you $3. A big bag of chips may cost you $3, but organic chips may cost you $5, because they use all these special ingredients that makes it organic and stuff like that, and makes it more healthier. But at the same time, who can afford a $5 bag of chips? You may have this whole, variety pack of chips, and they may sell them in the store. They may sell them for maybe $3.99, $4.99 for a whole bag, and they may sell them in healthier foods for like $5.99, $6.99. So Let me know what you think about this. Email me, comment at the bottom of this page. You can also email me, roundtable00@yahoo.com. I just want to know, do you think that this is a good idea? Do you think that this is a bad idea for the government to start banning snacks and sodas from the food stamp roster? I want to know what you think about this. Thank you for watching. As always, stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated. And we're finna do another episode because I wanted to, based on another topic, but we couldn't get into it in this one. So I'll see you in a little bit in the next episode of Roundtable Talk. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated, and I'll see you in a few. Take care.